Welcome to the Master Your Mindset and Metabolism podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Dunlap, creator of kellydunlap.com. I am a mindset and metabolism specialist who helps women reprioritize their health, balance their hormones, and reboot their metabolism so they can regain their energy, finally lose the weight, and feel confident in their own skin. I help women break up with the start-over syndrome, all or nothing mindset, get them off the diet wagon so they can create a consistent plan for a sustainable, healthy lifestyle free of diets. In this podcast, we will talk about all the things mindset, metabolism, the role our hormones play in all of this, and how to reboot your mindset and metabolism so you can finally step into your new empowered life. Thank you so much for being here and pressing play. Now let's begin. Hey friends, Kelly Dunlap here. I'm so excited to have you on this episode today. I am here with my friend Tricia Cammaart. She is a registered holistic nutrition practitioner, and she is very similar to what I do as far as working with women in that menopausal arena. She works with women 40 plus, and I invited her because we are in the same mastermind together, and we love to be in a room of women who do the same type of thing, and we learn so much from each other. And I thought that this would be an awesome conversation to share. And I'm just so happy to have you, Tricia. So thank you for being here.
No, thanks for having me here. This is fun.
Awesome. Yay. Mm-hmm. So, Tricia, I would love to learn more about what got you in this space. And I'm not completely sure if you're all online, if you're in person, like what it is that, you do and like what got you to this place.
Yeah, it's a fun story because it started when I was really young. My mom was actually an instructor in the 80s. So like, the jazzercise and dancercise, like bodysuits, full thing. And so I would go with her to her classes and I would watch her teach her classes and I'd be doing my own thing. And then when I turned 18, I actually got my certification to become a fitness instructor. So I did that for a few years. But then I went away to school, got a degree in biology and was doing some things in that field. And then there was an opportunity for me to come back into the fitness world. I always worked out, but I never got back into like teaching fitness. But there was an opportunity for me to come back into the fitness world. So I started to teach fitness classes and I was like, why did I ever stop doing this? This is just so much fun. And then that evolved into personal training because I saw where there was gaps in the fitness classes and women needed more one-on-one, get the form and technique correct. So I was moved to that personal training space to, again, fill the gaps. And then when you're working with women one-on-one, you're like, well, now they need the nutrition piece to put it all together. So then I got a certification. My first one was with Precision Nutrition and started coaching women in nutrition. And then I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to be able to do more. So then I got my diploma as a holistic nutritionist and so started offering some nutritional programs there and still teaching fitness classes. I like the combination of both. And then I turned 40 and I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is an interesting new path. And so I started to dig in a little bit more into what was happening with my body. And then some of the similarities I saw with my clients. And I thought this is, we are all dealing with these signs of perimenopause and menopause, but there isn't a whole lot of people talking about it. I didn't find that women really knew what was going on with her body and how to address it. And so I dived into that space. So that's where I am right now, helping women in that area, still trying to find, we work a lot with nutrition, but still trying to find that balance with fitness as well. But then there's so many more aspects that go on. We've got to look at stress and we've got to look at our mental and emotional health. And there's so many things as a practitioner that you can dive into to try to help to service others.
Yeah. It's so crazy because our path is so similar.
Oh, is that right?
So similar. It started out when I would do the aerobics classes. I was young. My parents got me a membership at a local gym, and I was the aerobics instructor in the back of the room. And then after a couple of years, I was the front row mini instructor, and then became, the aerobics instructor and then the personal trainer, and then realized these people need like more nutrition and behavioral, which was the same path as myself. So funny. We have very, very, very similar, but I agree with you in the sense that there are a lot of gaps. And this is what I think is so important for us to be so vocal about, is that people get so worried and stressed out like they are missing something. But it's like, I always use the expression, which you've probably heard this, going to getting your diploma in the holistic aspect is, there's the 52 holes in the ceiling, where it's like, there's 52 holes here. And it's like, you can't just focus on 2 of them. Like, there's some that need more attention. There's some that you can kind of patch up. There's some you can do away with. And there's just so much that can be focused on. It just depends on the person. And that's why individualization, customization, personalization is, truly, truly so important. And I love how you said, because this is so true, I am just flabbergasted and shocked in the sense that women don't know that they're actually going through these symptoms of menopause. People will say, I don't know. And it's like, oh my gosh, I would say within this last year was when I really started to recognize that a lot of times women don't know. They don't know. They have zero clue. They just think like, well, I'm just struggling with this, and this is kind of what my body's doing, but they don't realize that it's actually menopause.
And even I've found, like, so we've got the women in their 40s who are struggling with perimenopause, menopause symptoms, and they don't know. They see a change happening and they're like, oh, my body's changing. I don't know what's happening. And it's very interesting lately when I talk to older women, so women in their 60s who are now post-menopause, and they'll say, oh, that's not for me. But they're like, do you know what? I still get hot flashes though. Yes, you do. Like, yes, it doesn't stop as soon as, we stop menstruating. Like, it continues on. And just as again, to have that awareness for women 40 plus, like, what are you going through and what can be addressed here for you?
Yeah, for sure. And it's very interesting how I was in this Facebook group this morning, just happened to come across this post where you and I probably hear this all the time, where doctors are not building health. They're telling people that they're crazy, or no, they're disregarding this symptom. No, that's this, that's that. And this one woman said, I just left the doctor's office crying because she felt unheard. She felt like, okay, he's telling me like, no, that's just old age. Nope, that's just because of this. Nope, that's just because of that. And she felt completely disregarded. And I was just like, this is unacceptable.
It is. I just feel so bad for my clients who are really suffering. Like, their quality of life is suffering. And I just finished with a client, and she had like lots of hot flashes and night sweats, and she joined a program, and she lost, it was a 6-week program, just a small one, and she lost weight over that 6 weeks. But she said, you know what is more important? Like, she said, the weight is great that I lost that, but she's like, the fact that I haven't had a hot flash in 5 weeks is just improved the quality of my life so much. And like, that's what people need to hear. And that's what doctors or practitioners need to hear. Like, this is affecting my quality of life. And even though you think it's just old age or it's not bothering me, it is. And so where's the help that I need?
Right. And that's exactly what it is. It's that quality of life. It's like, usually people will say, I just want to lose weight. I just want to lose weight. Just help me lose weight. Just let me lose weight. But then they're like, just like her, which is, oh my God, it's not about the weight at all. Like, that's just a beautiful byproduct, but not having these hot flashes is life-changing. So in your opinion, when it comes to hot flashes and some of these symptoms, like a lot of the symptoms that I see most common are constipation, overwhelm, lack of clarity. They can't fall asleep or stay asleep. They are, what's what I'm looking for? They have obviously the hot flashes and such, but they just feel like, I don't even know. It's almost like they feel like they're in a place of just giving up. Like, I'm done. Stick a fork in me. I'm just done. Right. And they just have this hopelessness. That's what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the belly fat. We can't forget the belly fat. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to like these symptoms with your clients, and maybe you can think of some others as well, but those are typically the ones that I mentioned, constipation, because that's always a big one too. But when it comes to these symptoms, what do you think is like the most readily, like easily fixable in the sense of like bringing it down to a low roar versus like, oh my God, this is, so exacerbated in my life and it's changing like everything for me. Like, what do you think is like one of the, in your opinion, what do you think is one of the ones that you could focus on and say, we can rid of that quite easily?
Yeah, I really like to focus on balancing blood sugar, and that in itself can help fix, waking up in the night. It can help fix the brain fog. It can help fix the belly fat. And it is a big transition, and I like to work with just like women eating 3 meals a day and really making that breakfast, that lunch, and that dinner like very substantial, but having a little bit of fasting time and fasting overnight as well. And just helping to balance that out a bit. And that seems to work really well for them. However, I know that change isn't the easiest to do. Yeah. And I think that is one of the hardest things. Like there's no magic pill that we can take to make things easy. Sure. And as we start to see these hormones decrease, like everything gets harder and we have to work harder. We have to allow ourselves the time for self-care so we can put that in. But if you're in the mindset where you can make those change and maybe have a coach there to help guide you and motivate you along and support you. And, I'm really hungry. It didn't, it's not lasting that long. What can I do? And so being there to troubleshoot seems to have the biggest impact for a lot of my clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. It's pretty interesting how, well, you and I both know this too, but it's the mind that always gets in their way. Well, what do you mean? I got to focus on my blood sugar. Well, what do you mean? It's like, just trust me. Right. It's almost like I always hold out my hand. Just come here. I got you. Let me guide you. Like, let's just take all this pressure off of you. But the blood sugar, I always find that to be that main upstream problem or issue that it regulates so many things. But oftentimes people hear that and they think, it's almost like they connect it to, well, my uncle had blood sugar issues. I don't have blood sugar. What do you mean I need to? No, my uncle had, no, that's not me. I don't need to hear that. And it's like, no, you really do. Like it is a really big biggie, but you're absolutely right. I would agree with you 1,000% in the sense that if you target the blood sugar, so many other things are going to just regulate and follow suit. It's very interesting. Tell me your thoughts on the fasting. I would really like to know your, like what your strategy is around the fasting and, what benefits are, that you believe come from that.
So I am not a big fan of, having large fasting windows. For me, it just has always seemed to backfire with my clients. And so, I encourage a fasting window overnight, like 12 hours.
Some like of them organic one.
Yeah. Like 12 to 14 hours. But I feel that it'll work for so long and then it starts to burn them out. And then you're kind of stuck, well, what's the next move? Because you're not really eating many calories and you're only eating in a small window. So how do we repair the body from that? And can we switch to more of a, we're going to eat at regular intervals, but we're going to allow our body to consume all of the nutrients. And then if we need more energy, we're going to dip into our fat stores and use that energy. And then, we'll eat a meal again. So it's not a long time of fasting, but it is fasting. It's just not the idea that we're like eating all the time and keeping our blood sugar high all the time.
The snacker. that constant, oh, I got to have something, then snacky, 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 snacky. It's just
Mm-hmm.
giving that digestive system a break and letting it, but yeah, because people will get kind of caught up in this whole fasting thing. And like you said, sometimes it can backfire. I've experienced that too, with some clients, in the sense that it's like, you and I both know that it doesn't always work for everybody, but it can be a very magical thing that works very well, like for their body and their lifestyle, their energy, the way that they feel, so yeah, because I'm just really curious as to like what your thoughts were on it, just because I agree with you. It's kind of like, let's make it more of an organic thing, like during your sleep time, not like, okay, I need to fast for 3 days and I need to fast for, between this time and this time. And it's like, that just, I think, can become disruptive and hinder the quality of life as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And how do you, in a small window of eating, when we think about all of the nutrients that a woman needs in the day, all of her vitamins and minerals, all of the protein that she needs, all of her healthy fats she needs, how does she fit it in a 4-hour window of eating? Like it's hard to support the body with not as much.
Yeah. That's very, very true. That's a very good way to say it too. It's hard to support the body. Like you have to have like this more expansive, flexible way of, especially looking at, the nutrition and things like that. So the women that you typically work with, do you find that they have more of a struggle with eating more? Because I know that in my experience, there is that whole like fear of eating. Oh my God, you mean if I eat that much this is better, And that is a huge, like, I feel like it's a huge barrier that we have to really work our way through to get them comfortable with actually wanting to eat. It's like, who the hell started this 1,200, 900, 800 calories a day? I could just beat their butt. You know what I mean? Where did that come from? Somewhere in the 80s? I mean, which I was kind of giggling to myself when you said that your mom was doing like the aerobics and the jazzercise. Because when I started, like, I was in my living room doing this Crystal Light video. Her name was Michelle LeMay. And I would like do this video. Oh my God. And that's what kind of like sparked the whole thing. But anyway, so that whole getting back to helping women to get comfortable with eating and actually embracing and not being so fearful of food. I come across that a lot. And then they're always stepping on the scale. And there's that, the dieter's mindset, I guess you would say, So in your experience, what do you think is like one of your best strategies, or what is something that you find yourself commonly saying to your clients about how to overcome that and work through that?
Women eating more food. And so that becomes a big issue, and they are so afraid to eat food. And, I was too. I was afraid to eat food as well. And when you go from a certain mindset and then you're like, okay, I'm going to eat more food and see what happens. And you have to encourage them. Like, these are the nutrients that your body needs. You have to get this variety, or not you have to, but you should get this variety in to help support your body. But even it is like pulling teeth, and I will, on their food journals, I'll say, how about adding this, or how about adding that? And it's hard for them to eat more food, but we take baby steps. If I can get them to include 1 apple a day, that's extra. And I tell them about the benefits of it. Then we've made some progress. So just keep working from there.
Absolutely. And I have found that the mind is just, I always call it the cock blocker because it really is. It gets in the way all the time. And that mind piece is just insane to me. And the fact that it really does create just overwhelm, stress, and worry, and it's just so, I mean, trust me, I was them as well, just like you were saying. I can totally relate to that, because we were just told, like, oh, if you eat, oh my God, you're eating that much. Oh God, why are you eating all that? Like there's always this fear of being judged. There's this fear of shame. I'm a former binger and purger. And, there was always this, oh my God, you took the biggest piece, or, oh my God, you ate that, And so as women, we have this, a thing that, if we eat like a bird, we're dainty. If we do this, there's all these meanings that are applied. And it's like, no, man, you need to like eat. You have to eat. So here's a question that I have for you. I want to get your take on this. So this came up quite a few times with some recent clients of mine, and there's so many different perspectives on this, and I wanted to get yours. So if somebody says, I'm just not hungry in the morning, I'm not hungry in the morning, what do I do? Do I feed my body? Do I wait until it's hungry? And of course, let's just say the circumstances, somebody is trying to lose weight and they do have weight to lose. What is your position on that?
Yeah, I think that women should eat about like an hour within rising. And to me, it kind of signals that maybe their circadian rhythm's off a little bit. Maybe they're under a high amount of stress.
Yeah.
And so the hormones just aren't doing what they need to do. But if we start telling our body, this is how I want you to act. I want you to be hungry when I wake up in the morning. Maybe it won't happen within the first couple of days, but maybe after a week, their body will start to adjust and then start to get hungry. And I feel it's also a sign of, metabolism dysregulation as well. Like it's just not regulated. And so it's not firing up as they should. The other one I get a lot too is, I fast, I don't eat in the morning, but then they have like a tea with like tons of sugar or honey and milk in it, or a coffee that's like loaded up. And they say, I don't eat in the morning. Oh, yes, you are eating. You're just eating like some really terrible thing.
That's hilarious. Oh, yes, you are.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because, I was reading somebody's post on social media that is on the same page as you and I. And then of course, there's comments with people, hey, listen, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And then there was this one comment that says, well, I have degrees in these two nutrition and and I don't believe in that. That's not necessarily true. Well, the statement that I always say is everything is true but partial, right? Because it might not be true to you, but it's true for a lot of women. And a lot of women, I agree with you. It's because they've trained their body. Their metabolism is like, wah, wah, and they really need to. And I like how you said, train their body to say, hey, this is when I would like to start eating. But I've also noticed too, is that with people, they don't realize it's like, well, I don't eat till 11, 12 o'clock, but then they're binging at night.
Yes. Yeah. They're eating before bed, like they're starving. Yeah. Big portions binging. Right. Or cravings, right? They have like so many cravings for chocolate, cravings for sugar, cravings for alcohol, cravings for chips. And it's, and they're like hard cravings. And they're like, I don't know where this is coming from. And
right. Yeah. It's like, well, you got to eat because I absolutely fell into that window for several years. Oh, it's 1 o'clock. I haven't even eaten yet, but then at, 11 o'clock at night, there I am eating, what I mean? Then I'm going to bed and, and
it blows my mind. Cause when I run into clients like that, I like my body's like a clock and I am hungry at 7 and I'm hungry at noon and I'm hungry at 5. And so when people are like, oh, I don't even notice that I'm hungry. I'm like, how does that happen?
Yes. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, running for the food. Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So when you, I guess the next topic that I would like to talk about is being prepared when it comes to food, so many people lean into convenience foods. And, my statement is convenience food is making you fat. And I understand that you're tired. I understand that you're stressed and overwhelmed. And I understand that it's just easier. But people say, well, I grabbed this protein bar. That's a big one. I grabbed this protein bar and I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, can we just get rid of these fucking things already? Like some of them are okay, but the only time I would ever grab a bar like that is if I was desperate and on the road and like I needed something and it was going to keep me out of, I don't know, going to McDonald's or something ridiculous like that. Right. But when it comes to just being prepared, having those go-to items, like for me, I always tell my clients to make these they're like chicken balls. It's like ground chicken with apple and onion, a little bit of maple syrup, and it's a very simple recipe, but they're perfect grabs, and so you're not reaching for the nacho chips or the pretzels and hummus and that kind of stuff. So when it comes to the meal piece, as far as just getting started somewhere, what is your suggestion typically for people?
I really like clients to focus on making sure they've got protein in the house. And there are convenient proteins out there. Now, some of them, okay, they're not the healthiest. However, we can, grab maybe some, a healthier pepperette sort of thing as a protein source if we need to. I just love having like cans of tuna in the cupboard and cans of salmon and chickpeas and lentils and even having like a good hummus that's in your fridge that you can use. And the same with having yogurts in your fridge or cheeses, like just so many protein options, because that will help balance blood sugar first. And so I feel like a lot of women, like eggs are a great convenient snack as well. And I feel like a lot of women that I work with can get that protein piece down. The next hardest piece is the vegetables, is trying to get some vegetables in. Yeah. And because they do take prep and you got to prep them, you got to peel them, you got to clean them, you got to wash them. And I get that. Sometimes I know that we have a little store in our area that pickles their vegetables, and they don't use any sugar, it's just vinegar. And so I'll tell them, and I'm sure there's some at other supermarkets as well, or you can make your own, but like getting some of those non-sugar pickled vegetables that you can open up and have. So you've got some ready-made beets, you've got ready-made carrots, you've got asparagus, you've got green beans, like stuff that's already ready.
Yeah.
Things like kimchi and sauerkraut and, fermented pickles and olives, like stuff that's ready for you, can help in the planning a little bit, especially if you're stuck and you can't, you just don't have time to prep or to meal plan.
Yeah.
But it is hard. And I think as we, and I always hammer in, like, you've got to take care of yourself now. You've really got to take care of yourself now. And what is the step that you're going to take to do that? Are you going to plan your meals? And when you plan your meals, you got to plan your meals. You got to do the grocery shop. You've got to prep the food. Like, it is not just as easy as I'm going to plan my meals. There's a lot in there, but you've got to take time out of your day for that self-care. And that self-care is meal planning, meal prepping.
Yeah, that's a behavior. It's
a
total behavior. I always call it, flexing your culinary muscle, because you have to. It's a behavior that you just have to embrace. Otherwise, you're just going to be like in that land of convenience. And then you're looking around complaining all the time. And it's like, well, listen, you need to work on that behavior as well. But I really like your idea of the pickled vegetables, because I haven't done that myself. I've made my own kombucha, which I really enjoy. It's obviously a fermented food as well, but I have entertained the pickled vegetables myself, and it would probably be something I would really enjoy. Like, I've purchased like pickled asparagus and carrots and things like that, and it just kind of jazzes things up a little bit. I think that's part of the problem, is that people just get bored. So they just get bored, and they'll eat things that are not colorful. They're not taking the time to make their plate look pretty. And that's like kind of where I think the dopamine hit comes in, right? Where it's like, it needs to look pretty, it needs to look inviting, it needs to look exciting. So it's just adding just a little hint of color, it can go a long way. It really can. I like having that, like if I had small jars of those fermented things, that would be a good idea.
Yeah. And I made, the other thing I love is, pickled red onions. Like, you talk about color and flavor, like so beautiful to put on the table and to have, and they're not as pungent because the acidity from the pickling has taken it out, but you still get that lovely taste, and it adds that hit of color too. So really nice. Pickled beets, lots of lovely color. So
I like that too. What's your take on like herbs and things like that? When it comes to like fresh herbs, for example.
Yes. I think herbs are fantastic. And I think that they can offer a lot of healing properties, not just, in terms of taste to food, but I really encourage all my clients to go crazy with the herbs, like find out what you like, use them up. I often give them like local places that grow their own herbs and produce their own herb blends. I have a big garden, and if I have clients come to the house, I'm always like clipping herbs and like sending them for them, like sending them to them.
Oh,
And yeah,
yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So that's something that you've really dove into. It's
Mm.
funny that you mentioned the garden because I've always wanted to embrace that behavior, but it's never been my strongest point. Everything always would die on me. But last year I decided to invest in a landscaping company and clean things up in my backyard. And then they had created one of those boxes, like it's a really big
Mm-hmm.
planter box.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know really what I'm doing, but I have one now. And so I think it might be kind of fun to grow some of those in there.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
okay, now it's there. It's built. Now I need
Mm-hmm.
to just get my butt out there, once the weather truly breaks. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that idea about how you are, really into gardening and growing the herbs and, things like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. What's your favorite one?
My favorite herb to grow. Well, I really love chamomile. I think it's like a beautiful, I mean, I just use it for teas, but I think it's like it's just a very fragrant herb, and it's just very calming when you use it in teas. The other one that I used a lot was mint this year. So I love mint again for tea and just for sprinkling on. Thyme I really love. And that is great. And it makes such a difference when you use, you buy thyme from the store, but when you have thyme that you've grown yourself and you put it on that roasted chicken, like, oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. So, yeah, so this year, so I did a lot of herbs last year, just kind of playing with herbs and what I could use them for. And I harvested them and I dried them, used them a lot for teas. And this year I've collected more seeds. So I'm going to grow more herbs. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all of them, but I will have them and I will learn as I go. And that's the beautiful thing about gardening. You just learn as you go.
Yeah, that's super cool. So when you do your gardening, what other vegetables do you grow?
So I grow, looking at my garden, I grow beans, tomatoes, lots of tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. And that cherry tomatoes are one that I fermented as well. So that's being fermented
That's
in
interesting.
yes, and they'll keep. And then with the other tomatoes, I made lots of salsa, which is great because you can control the recipe, and I canned it. And peppers we grew, lots of lettuce, kale, kohlrabi, pickles. So we made our own relish, and I made our own relish and made our own pickles, which is, again, it's so nice because then I can control what goes in them. And so then I know what I'm eating. Yeah. And zucchini, lots of zucchini that we froze for zucchini bread, zucchini muffins. And potatoes for the boys because my boys eat a lot of potatoes.
I love that. So something I learned this past year, which was really interesting, was taking zucchini and just chopping it up, freezing it, and using that in like your smoothie, like your protein shake.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, hello, like that's so amazing. You don't even taste it. Don't even taste it. And it makes it a little creamier.
Yeah, it just really it mixes so well. I don't know why that wasn't a thing until last year. Like
I know, like I just came across it and I'm like, what the heck? That's amazing. But I love and you're so right. Like I am like you. What is in this product?
Yes.
Like what am I eating? Like I call it being an ingredient hero because for years I was just like after the aesthetic. I didn't give a shit if what was in it, if it would kill me in a year. I didn't care. It was just like, oh, it'll make my waist smaller. Sure. Give it here. If somebody told me to eat dog shit, I probably would have. I mean, it's just like, but then it's like when you get to that place of, oh my God, there's 30 ingredients in here. What the hell is this?
I've noticed that so much with nut milks now. Like it used to just be a couple of ingredients, and now I'm like, I don't even know what brand of nut milk to buy. I don't even think I can because there's like so many ingredients in them. I'm gonna have to, and that's when I'm gonna have to. Okay, do I make the decision? I'm gonna have to make it myself.
I was just gonna say,
yeah, if I want it. So, what is the process? What is my weekly habit going to be like so that we've got this nut milk in the house? And
there you go. A new behavior, a new habit.
Behavior.
It's a whole new thing. And it's because you're making a decision to better your health. And I think that's like the whole like point of this conversation is just telling people like, yes, we have these symptoms, but you have to back it up as far as like looking at where are you the contributor? What behaviors really need to be cleaned up? What are you eating? What are the things that you're not valuing the time to spend on? Because just like you said, well, if I decide to make my own nut milk, it's going to have to be a new habit. It's going to take more of my time, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
It really is worth it. Just comes down to always, what we value. So
and it's one of those things, like we do consume. I always say, what do you consume a lot of in a day, in a week, and make sure that is a very healthy thing, non-toxic, organic, because you're consuming so much of it. Oops. I know that, bananas are not on the
Dirty Dozen.
But our family consumes so many bananas. I want to make sure that they're organic, just because we consume so many. So make it clean. Yeah.
That's a really good point. That's great advice too. Like that's a very, very good point, because it's that compound effect over and over and over again. And the fact that if it is something that you are consuming a shit ton of, then it better be very clean, So that's a really, really good point. It's funny you just brought up that Dirty Dozen and Clean 15, because I literally was just looking for that the other day. I didn't find the 2023. I could be behind, but I found the 2022. I know they don't really change that much. And it's just kind of like, oh, this is a really good reminder, but it is so fascinating. Of course, I took the time to read a little bit on it, and it was just amazing to me how, I want to say, I think they said that organic had 70, like was it 70% less? Something they had to do with obviously the pesticides, of course, but it was really, really eye-opening to me to read that evidence again. That it is important to buy the organic, and it does matter. People don't think like, oh, what is that? What is that going to hurt? Well, like you said, if you're eating it consistently,
all the time,
well, then it is going to matter. Oh my gosh, it is so important. And
I wish that we had this information as women when we were in our 20s, right? Or, I mean, I know for my daughter, like and my kids, I'm giving them this information now that they have, and hopefully that when they're adults, they'll be able to make the right decisions and the best decisions for them. But, I think about, when I started to clean up my diet even more and look at the toxic load, I was in my probably late 30s. So I had 30 plus years of toxic load before I started to clean it up. But imagine if you didn't have that toxic load when you were a kid, a teenager in your 20s, right? It would be, I feel like your perimenopause, menopause symptoms would be less because you're not dealing with that toxic load.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. That is so true. It is such a disservice. I still don't understand why we are not educated more on our bodies when we are in school. Why is that not a main topic? It's just mind blowing to me. Oh, and this is a good one. This is kind of down a rabbit hole, like in a different area. But one of my clients, this is just mind blowing to me. This is like just America for you over here. She says, I'm at a conference and I'm at a cancer conference because she's a physical therapist or something that works a lot with cancer patients. And they were serving, guess what? Donuts and muffins. And I'm like,
wow.
Are you fucking kidding me right now? Are you fucking kidding me? That would be like going to a conference about opioids and them serving opioids there.
Yep.
I mean, you know what I mean? I'm just like, that was just mind blowing to me. It's just like, hello. Aren't we kind of, I don't know. It just seemed hypocritical in a sense to me.
Yeah. I know when my daughter was, so I was always worried about my daughter, when she was little, and even now, making sure that she just has non-toxics, because I struggled with my period a lot when I was younger, like very, very heavy, trying to, just dealing with it. And then it wasn't until I got older that I realized I think that all of these things are stacked against me. So I have this information, and I don't want my daughter to go through what I went through. So she was going to school at 3, and her poor lunch bag, she's just a tiny little thing. Her poor lunch bag was full of glass containers, heavy glass containers, because I wouldn't use plastic.
The plastic, yeah.
Everything's just like weighted down all the time. I'm like, I got to do this for your health. I'm sorry. Okay.
That is so funny. And it's true, because I did something for Ayana, my daughter. She's 5. She's my little surprise baby. And she's like, but my backpack, it's so heavy. I'm like, I know, it's because of what I have in your lunchbox. You are not eating what is going on at that school.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And sometimes she'll come home and she'll be like, I ate the school lunch. And I'm like, well, I guess I have to have a conversation with the teacher, because oh my God, that's another catastrophe. You know, we could go on we could do a whole podcast on that mess. I mean, Jesus. Anyway, crazy. Well, my friend, this was a lovely conversation. I think there were so many different valuable nuggets, and I loved all the things that you shared, just the tiny little nuggets that people could say, oh, you know what? I'm going to try that. Or, oh, and that's why I love to do podcasting, just because it just, you know, brings lovely people like you and share like so many things that you do in your life that is like, oh my God, I can do that too, you know, and it's just about sharing that knowledge and information. And if somebody just gets one thing from this conversation, then it's worth it to me, you know?
Yeah. So, and I think this transition is, there's so many things that we should be doing, and it does become overwhelming. But like you said, taking one nugget that you're like, I can do that. And then you start with that, and that is a good starting spot.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's for that whole, people think that it's got to be perfect or a shit show, the all or nothing, you know, kind of mindset that we always have to break through. So, all right. Awesome. This was an amazing conversation. And I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time and hanging out with me and you know, sharing all of your knowledge with my audience. And I would love to be able to put in the show notes any like thing that you want to share, like maybe where to follow you on Instagram, or if you have a freebie or, you know, anything like that. I welcome you to you know, share that with me, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Awesome. Yes, I can send that to you. Yeah. My website is just triciacammaart.com. Nice and easy to find. And my handle on Instagram is @tcammaart. So you can find me there.
Very good. Cool. Okay, my friend. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you love what you heard, please be sure to share it with me by leaving a review. If you aren't already following me on social media, come find me on Facebook by searching Kelly Dunlap, or come join me in my Master Your Mindset and Metabolism Facebook group by going to kellydunlap.com/group. I cannot wait to connect with you on the next episode.